You have to realize, Ralph, I've been through what you're going through.
No, you haven't. It's different, Kevin. I've never seen anyone so bad at this as me. Honestly, man, I'm not trying to play drama queen here. I swear to God, I'm not. It's just really frustrating, Kevin. Honestly, like my right hand is just fine, can do the rebounds just fine. Like I don't want to be any blazingly fast drummer, but it's just my singles are really terrible. Like honestly, really terrible. And it frustrates me that I can do them here without rebound fine, and when I go to the pad or any surface with rebounds, it all goes down the dumps.
Well, first of all, perhaps you should consider believing me that when I tell you that I've been through this. And then some, I may be understating the actuality of the thing. Yeah, I've been working at this for a really long time. And I think it's like the Rubik's Cube. I went through every iteration possible. It's like I decided, you know, I'm not going to get the answer until the very last turn of the cube. As though I somehow would enjoy the mystery of the search. Okay. And Richard Martinez has said that this truth is always simple. And what did Maurice Spivak say? I'm not teaching you anything that you haven't been doing since the day you've been born. And probably in the womb. If you think about it, at a certain point, once a certain formation occurs and you develop the fulcrums and you're moving around in the natural way that we're really trying to tap into. Now, one of the things that I did was think that I would have a specific, tons of them. You have no idea.
Tons of what?
Tons of questions with regards to a specific thing. I totally get what you're dealing with right now. It's quite fascinating. I went through the whole Buddy Rich and that article that he wrote.
Yeah, everyone knows that article.
With Henry Adler, wasn't it? Where he talks about playing on a pillow. That's the secret. Now you're saying playing on your leg or a pillow is the only thing you can do. It means that you're missing stuff, and you are traveling a course that I'm familiar with because I would chase down individual things like that, and it felt absolutely correct and appropriate, and yet ultimately what happens is I learned to, and maybe I never entirely learned not to ask the kinds of questions you're asking, but boy, did I learn to just sort of be more quiet, and in doing so, often the question that you wanted to ask gets answered without ever asking the question. That's really what I learned.
It's funny, sorry to interrupt you, but it's funny because my previous teacher said exactly the same. After the whole, like, you know, studying with Barry, etc.
Those were wise words. But I don't mind asking, you know, those or answering those specific questions. It's okay. That's another way to do it. But keep in mind what I said. I know you get an itch and it just absolutely has to be scratched. I understand, you know. But really, there is a totality of the whole thing. So that when you say, "Look, I can play doubles really well," but you think you were playing them really well. You see, you can't be, if you can't play singles really well, that means you're really not playing doubles really well.
Yeah, I know.
Right? And what might happen would be that you would get the answer for the singles that you're searching for through an investigation of the doubles. You see, one epiphany helps to answer other questions. So what I'm talking about. Now, a really big part of it is the concept, the conception of what we're trying to do, right? Because Buddy Rich said it's all in the wrist. Richard Martinez says it's all a wrist turn, right? And okay, will that answer all of your questions? Well, it's a good start. Okay. Another really important thing to understand, for instance, is yeah, it's all a wrist turn, but what about this thing we're talking about with regards to a floor? Why is that as important as that it's all in the wrist? I don't know. And then you have what is the grip, and this mysterious thing called the fulcrum, which really isn't very mysterious at all, right? It's just the lever system. Force to resistance applied to a lever arm over a fulcrum. Okay. And you know there are 3 different classes of lever systems. Will that solve the problem and give you what you're really looking for? Well, it's a big part of it. And it's kind of bothersome to have to think about all of this stuff. Why can't you, but come on, what is it? Dick had a very well-known player, I can't even remember who it was someone who ultimately did very well, became very well known. He came back to Dick and he said, you know, I should have studied with you in the beginning. You know, what are you doing? And he insisted to Dick that what Dick was doing was a trick. And Dick said, well, maybe I just played better than he did. So I wondered, maybe he was alluding to the fact that there's some kind of trick. Will that answer my question? I could go on and on and on. Okay. And it does seem like a trick, or it does seem like almost like magic, but it really is actually a very simple thing. But to get it, because we have all these habits, and we're so clever, we end up taking ourselves down paths that lead to nowhere. And yet you'll always end up coming back to these very basic principles. So we know that it's going to be a wrist turn. We need to understand this idea, it's all in the wrist. And then we need to understand that we have a very specific grip. Okay? I mean, because if we could make it all from the wrist and hold the stick in all kinds of ways, right? This technique has a very specific grip. And what's really important about this grip is the fulcrum. Now you're studying math, so you don't have to think like I did about 2 different grips, meaning 2 different fulcrums. So my questions were exponential because of the fact that I was playing with 2 different grips. Imagine that, Ralph. Double your level of inquiry.
Yes.
Okay. So ultimately, though, we have a grip, and what's really important is this idea of a fulcrum. Now, what does that mean? So there's a certain feeling that exists when you're holding the stick correctly, right? And what ends up occurring is that you always have the potential for the fulcrum. Another thing that very much confused me is this idea that when we're just turning our wrist, if we're not using the fulcrum in the hand, and we're only using the wrist fulcrum, well, what does that mean? I went down that path. Am I is this something someone hasn't told me? Am I really, is the stick rocking over the fulcrum when I just do this? Why, how do you make that?
I thought about the same questions.
how much distinction is there between using the fulcrum in the hand, utilizing that leverage system? To what extent does the fulcrum in the hand not exist when I'm using the fulcrum that is the wrist? Well, it's actually a really big deal. And I believe that it's true that when you're just turning your wrist for singles, you're not using the fulcrum in the hand, but it's totally there. If it wasn't there, if it wasn't available, then there'd be something wrong with your grip. How could you go back and forth from singles to doubles if that wasn't there? Okay. And what's really, really important, and this is something that Richard Martinez taught me, is that the strokes will teach you all of this stuff. They really will. You have to trust in that. Thinking that I can give you the answer with regards to how to play singles, well, maybe we can get them better. But then I'll go to have you play what is the next upcoming stroke. That's redundant. The next stroke, or the upcoming stroke, and you'll not perhaps be able to play it very well, but you'll have your singles. So you need all of the pieces, and then you have to learn how they fit together. The strokes really will teach you how to play. I didn't want that either. I just wanted, how do you play a double? How do you play a single? How do you make a throw? Well, if you really understand those ingredients, then you'll be able to play the strokes. Right? And we learn those ingredients, or the 7 basic strokes, through our studies of the scales and arpeggios for our instrument, the strokes and row strokes, right? Doubles and row strokes, yeah. And all these strokes that are in the library that we're going through in a chronological order. So maybe there's a way to dovetail the two right now, but I'll give you some things to think about. Okay, so get rid of this. Probably won't see it in the shot of my little mirror there. So I feel the fulcrum in the middle finger. However, I'm not using it in the way that you might imagine, as I once imagined. Is it rocking over the fulcrum like this as I turn, so that in a sense you are taking advantage of the fulcrum in the hand? It doesn't really have that sensation to me. Okay. I know that this is there. Dick Wilson would do this. Greg, this is a big Greg Alvin. Just go ahead and do this for me. Just let that stick sit in the middle finger and let it bounce. Okay? See that? Now that's taking advantage of the fulcrum. That's using the fulcrum in the hand. Okay? When I go, but that exists. You see, this is something Jack Berger once had me do. He said, just let the stick lay in the fulcrum. Okay, take your other fingers off. Even the 4th and 5th. It's a little stressful to hold them away, but just don't have them on the stick. I can't quite see into your hand, but probably.
It's not.
Okay. And he said, now notice the butt end is resting on the palm. Mm-hmm. And he said, just wave the stick in the air. Perhaps it has more of this quality. See? Now you'd say, are you using the fulcrum in the hand? Are you really, is it activated? You take, well, I don't feel like, because you're not making contact.
You're just using the wrists, right?
But yet, it's the middle finger that acts as a support.
Yeah, but it's just a support. It's not rocking in the finger, I guess.
Not rocking in the fulcrum, but boy, is that fulcrum apparent, isn't it?
Yeah, and especially heavy because you don't have the other fingers to support it.
It's more heavy.
Right.
Good. Right. Okay. So in a sense, we aren't using the fulcrum in the hand. Now, what we want to do is build our grip and not destroy that feeling, but it will feel a little different. No,
Feels more supportive, I guess.
it feels a little different, but I still feel it. Go ahead, come on up to here and take your first finger and thumb off. See, that you should feel that, and then at a certain point,
yeah, it's gonna fall. Yeah.
You see, and yet, even though the stick might fall out, when I'm in this position, when I'm with grip, when I built the grip around that fulcrum, and I come up here, I still feel that fulcrum. It hasn't gone away.
Sure.
And then when I come back down, now I can feel it in a sense in the way that you feel that stick laying in it again. It's supporting the stick. Okay. So when we go to just turn our wrist, can't lose that. And that means we have to really have a keen understanding of how that guide works. Now watch mine. Mine just stops. Okay? Dead. Yours isn't.
There you go.
My stick stops dead. And I'm not doing anything. All I'm doing is recognize where the fulcrum exists, building a grip around it with the first finger and thumb, working as a guide. You know what? Watch. There's a little shadow that it's changed because if you move your body ever so slightly, it seems to cast light and cast a shadow on your hand. But I think what I'm seeing is correct. Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing to consider. Okay, so I'm doing this. See, I think after you strike, not only is your bead not stopping dead, but there's movement in your arm after you strike, ever so slightly. My arm just dies. And give me, but you're holding left. So give me a right profile. Is that, or would it be called a left? I want to see your left side. Turn towards your right.
Like this, I guess, right?
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead and turn your wrist, just as we were doing a moment ago. When you watch this back, you will see that your arm goes down every time you get to the land. So you're not really turning your wrist. Getting there.
Yeah, but I suppose that's just a kind of like a consequence of it, right? I'm not deliberately moving it.
Well, it shouldn't be moving. So it's not a pure wrist turn. Yeah, which is cool, right? Because maybe that's part of the problem. You see, I told you there's a lot to this, and yet it's very simple.
Yeah, but
let me show you.
That's the thing.
Let me show you. Let's see. How would I do this? Okay, I'll show you. I'll show you this way. go like that.
It also moves so ever so slightly, right?
See what it? No, once I land, it stops. Yeah, stop. Well, let me show you what's happening. Okay, join me. Go ahead and turn sideways. So we're both a mirror image, I guess, of one another. Okay. Move back a little bit because your bottom of your hand is cut off. Cool.
You good?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Now, I want you to just turn up to the ceiling and come back down. Is that the floor? You have to decide. See, you actually really have to decide. So that's your floor. That's where you have to come. Now come on up. And now come back down. Yeah, you see what I think what you're doing, Raph, is you're actually, whether you know it, it's tiny, you're moving your forearm.
Maybe, yeah.
Not if you're a wrister. Well, I think when you watch back, you'll notice that you are. Because if you don't engage the bicep muscles, we're only using the muscles that exist in front of the elbow. Okay? And muscles can only pull. Okay, so watch what happens to my forearm as I go up. See, it countervails, doesn't it? Ah, looks different. Looks different this time. Now watch what the forearm does as I come back. Doesn't it go up a little bit?
It does, yeah.
Well, I hesitate to mention it because then you're going to be, there's another one of my problems. Now it's this. I turned insight to another. Okay, so don't do that. Don't make this a really big deal. But I want you, or don't enhance this. Just recognize what's happening. So when I go up, there's some especially when I go up this high, there's some kind of counterbalance so that the forearm seems to react and goes down, and then when I come up, it comes back to where it was. Do it again. And then back. Look, watch how much mine moves. I'm coming up, fairly high. Look. Look at it.
Yours moves a lot. No?
Look. It's down, and it's up. Now, you wouldn't even know this is happening. You don't feel it. The body's adjusting. That's better. But you can't mimic this. It's either going to work or not. It really does need it really needs to be left alone. See, maybe your arm is too tight. Okay? Let your arm hang by your side. We always go back to this feeling. Let your arm hang by your side. Okay? And then you're going to bring it up and find the floor. Right? It really is going to be laying in that middle finger. And it's on the palm, butt end, and then the first finger and thumb come in as a guide. All right, and then we're going to notice that this area has a particular contour. It comes up just a little bit as in relationship to the knuckles, okay? But it's fairly flat. It's not completely flat. It's in this position, palm down. Okay, now we're turning up and immediately feel my forearm countervail. Did yours really go down at all? See, I think you're
slightly, but not that. I mean, especially.
No, wait. That was different. Now, let it come back to where it was. There.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is that should I actually be conscious about this? Because then I'll go on the other rabbit hole, is like trying to be too conscious about it and trying to force it. That's the issue that you're mentioning.
Yeah, and here's how you do it. You listen to your teacher and have him. You see, Murray would teach through the brain. Dick would say often he would want you just to feel it, and then you can intellectualize it. So I want you to feel it.
If I felt it, I know what you mean.
Feel it. So if the body isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing, it means you're not feeling. See, that has a feeling. I want you to get in touch with that feeling there, and let it come back up. And then it'll stop dead when you land. Probably. You have more of a chance. That's where it should end. It goes, boom, up. It doesn't come back down after you land. It just goes, boom. Almost. Up. But when you get to this position, it's better, Ref. What? When you get to this position, it just stops. See? Boom. Boom. It stops. Yours goes like this. Every time. It doesn't. Forearm is down a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
Try it. No, you got to watch. When you land, it waits in this position. Don't shove with your arm. Once you land, watch. It waits like this. Here, take the stick out of your hand. Okay. You're gonna come up like this. No. See, you just lifted your forearm literally went up. I want your forearm to go down. You lost that feeling. Try.
Okay.
Try to get that feeling. Feel it. There. Now, when you come back down, it's just going to stop. Yeah, bend just a little further. You didn't come all the way. So do it again, but that was good. No, you got to feel that forearm. No, just feel the forearm. Dip. Feel it or watch it. Good. And it's just going to come back to where it started. Boom. There! And hold it here. You're not pushing it down. You're not doing anything. It just stops down and it looks like that. Goes like that. Almost. You're lifting with the forearm a little. I want to see the forearm go down. Do it in slow-mo. Nope. See, your forearm's dead now. Your forearm's not behaving itself right now. It's like, I want a lemonade, watch TV, or do something else. No, let that forearm come down. Didn't really come down very much. There. And it has to come up, doesn't it? See, I'm kind of giving you advanced stuff. You realize that? Usually you teach students this stuff, you get them playing, you get their head around what's going on, and they hopefully find a lot of this stuff out on their own. So watch.
Wow. It's not working for me. It's kind of by my own.
As this, right? Watch here. Put your hand underneath your forearm. No, right in here. This is the part that's interesting. That tells me you're not thinking like I am, which means I have to explain to you how I'm thinking.
It's the forearms. It's the forearms.
You see what I mean? Every word the teacher chooses, it needs to be considered, or I'm going to lead you astray. That's not what I want. Okay, so we're flat. We're flat, right? And yeah, okay. And you don't want to be holding your arm too far forward. You know, remember the elbow. It's by your side, right? Right. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to get into what would be a playing position potentially if there were a stick in your hand, and then you're going to put your hand the other way. I think as though your palm is, and you're not going to touch. You're going to put it down a half an inch below. So let's see. Maybe even an inch. Go ahead. But no, you need to be, okay, but you want to have your wrist in a straight position as though you're holding a stick. Okay, now good. Now this position, your palm underneath your elbow, your wrist joint, the forearm, where the forearm connects to the hand. Okay, when you go to turn your wrist up, you should feel that area touch your hand. And then when you Come back, it should leave your hand. There it is. Do it again. There it is. Then it leaves your hand. You don't have to go fast in the other direction. There. And there. Comes away, doesn't it? Look at that.
Yeah, but that's the wrist. It's not necessarily the forearm going down. Well, I mean, the wrist is part of the forearm, so you can see it like that.
Yes, it is. There it is. It actually did it. Now put a stick in your hand and keep your hand underneath as some kind of a gauge or some kind of imaginary stop. Can you do it? Now what you'd want to do, if you're holding a stick, is maybe you would want to move your hand further in that direction so it doesn't bump into the butt end.
The butt end, yeah, that makes sense.
Now go ahead and turn towards the ceiling and see. There you go. And go the other way. You go, feel it? You don't have to go fast yet. There, and the other direction. And there. And that's what it'll look like when it stops. That's all that's going to happen for a real wrist turn. Okay, now just come on up and make a strike and see if that happens. Not bad. There. See, it shouldn't wobble and come back down after you land. It just goes back to there. It's a perfect machine, Raph. There, it's getting there. Yeah. It should stay as far away from the hand as it was in the beginning. It touches a hand on the way up. Yeah, you have to watch that hand. And no, see, it doesn't fall back towards the hand. It goes up and stops. Up. There. Better. Up. See how it wants to fall after you land? That's where it should stop. Better. Sounds different too, doesn't it? Sounds more solid. Pop. Okay, let's get into position.
Oh,
Okay, so we're not going to wait at the top. All right, we're not going to. That was remedial. We're not going to be waiting up here. But for you, you needed to feel how that works. Now remember, I'm a traditional guy. Traditional has its whole other bag of.
Yeah, I don't even want to go that rabbit hole.
Yeah, idiosyncrasies, should we say. Start to move, but I never lose the feeling of the fulcrum. And you can see, if you watch, that I'm getting, there's some kind of motion as we've been just talking about. Then we can start to make motions. We get that nice relaxation, okay? That's what we're looking for. Okay, so what if you were to just play, what if you were just, well, you see, that's why, let's see how I can connect the two. And notice your hand, your grip looked better too. You were in your left, which gets all wonky. See, when it goes faster, why would the bounce of the, see, now it'll feel more like playing on your leg. Because the whole system is working as it should. See how the grip doesn't really change? The space here, check out the space. watch the space, for instance. You'll notice that it doesn't really change.
I don't.
See how that doesn't change? Notice where it stops? See? Dead. No motion, no unnecessary motion. But we lack the efficiency that we seek. Okay? Okay, so your singles have just gotten better. As you spend some time contemplating what we just talked about, you'll see they've gotten better. Your grip has gotten better. And in this case, there wasn't much to think about with the grip. You're just holding it. You're really thinking about how to not do weird things with your arm. Thinking that you're doing a wrist turn, when really, look, I'm doing a wrist turn. No, you're not. A wrist turn is this. Okay? Now, how would that relate to this? It does, you see. Now we're into this. Now our next stroke, pull up twist triplet. Well, I'll spend a minute with you on this now because I want to keep, as I explained, the strokes really will teach you this technique. Are you looking at the Swiss triplet? Mm-hmm. I should be too. Okay, because we came out of having played flat taps, right? Okay, cool. Now, let me give you how I'd like you to play this. Okay, and that is, now remember, we've got some new ideas established now that are going to be part of what we're doing when we play this stroke, for instance. So we have this wrist triplet. What we're going to do is we're going to throw into the triplets. Now we don't want an accent, but I want to teach you. Now you see we have this motion that you really were unfamiliar with. It's a motion, isn't it? Kind of motion. It's not this motion. It's not thinking. It's a very, very specific motion with a very specific grip, with a very specific floor. Okay, now, again, we've got to have that grip. We've got to have the floor. And then we're going to learn this other motion. It's another very specific motion. It is, and remember, if it's really all a wrist turn, then we would call this perhaps a regular wrist turn. But when we go to do this, and then this, see, here's a wrist, it's a wrist turn. And look, it's a wrist turn. It's a wrist turn. This is a wrist turn. This is a wrist turn. All a wrist turn. In that sense, it's very simple. So we're really going to need to feel, and then after we throw, we're going to make another wrist turn. And look what's going to happen. You're going to get the throw, and then look, it went down. That's still got to happen, you see? So you're working on your singles right now, in a sense. Right? When we work on doubles on the wrist, in a sense, you're working on your singles, because doubles on the wrist, for instance, are really just this over and over and over again. Over and over. Only we just want two of them. Now what we're going to do is we are going to play two of them. First one is going to be a throw. So it'll be see? Wrist turn, wrist turn. A throw and then a wrist turn. A throw on the left and then a wrist turn. Once we get it going, the very first left will just be an appoggiatura, right? Will just be a wrist turn. I think it would be.
Second left is a throw or not?
And well, the first left will always be a throw, except for the very first time, because it starts as a flam, right? So we're just making this motion that we just worked on.
Yeah.
In our wrist, so we're going Okay, that's what we're doing.
Why is the second left throw? Oh, because then you go to the next left, so you'll do this.
If I were to have you play it as a pickup, so in other words, the entirety of the stroke is, we have 6 notes. We're in 6/8. So if I were to ask you to play the last 8th note, which is left, why don't you start it on the pickup? Just start it on the last 8th note of this group of 6/8 notes.
Yeah.
It'll be a left, and it'll throw in. That's it. And the right will throw.
Yeah, so you initiate the right throw when the first left lands. Right?
And then you're going to play a flam. You're going to turn your left. There it is. But you have to make 2 rights in the same way.
Yeah.
That's cool to play it just one way like that.
Yeah.
Now you have to make another right. There it is. Okay, watch what your left is doing. This is what your left is doing right now. It's going, let's see. I'm exaggerating just a little bit, but not that far off. See, it takes a while, and be patient with yourself, okay? It takes a while to learn to not use your arms. You've been using your arms for your whole life. So when you go to throw, you see, maybe that's a problem. Watch. After you go, you're going to go let's see. You see, if the left is going off to the side because you're introducing your arm, that means that you're not really making the second turn. So it's going to go watch.
I understand.
Watch. It has to do this. Turn in the left. Now it's going to go up. Yeah, just do this for.
I think so.
Also, I'm asking for a really big throw. I really want you to feel this motion. I want you to feel this motion. See how the throw won't come along until you really understand what a regular wrist turn is? Okay, so watch. Here's what I want in the left. See if I can do it with my left. There you go. Okay, a big throw and then a fairly substantial turn, because we're trying to get 2 notes that are pretty similar in volume. No, I'm going to do it in my right because I can count on it being a better demonstration for you. So nothing personal. Poor thing.
I don't even know how you play both grips the way you do that.
So we're going to make this big throw. Watch how high I turn. I want a nice big turn. Okay. And then the whole thing just comes down, collapses. Now I want, watch. I want more of this. Better. There. Boom. And then you're going to turn your wrist in between. A nice big wrist turn. Then you're going to throw again.
Quite substantial one, right? Or not? It's a big wrist turn anyway, right?
Just that regular wrist turn that we just worked on where there's counterbalance in the forearm. Don't spend so much time getting this. I want you to come on up, come on up from the wrist, and then turn your wrist to the ceiling and let the whole thing collapse. There, and a regular wrist turn. No, I want a bigger wrist turn in between. There it is. There it is. That's what I want. Memorize the feeling. You don't have to kill this regular wrist turn. You don't have to kill it. Just lift it up. It's just gonna do this. Watch. It's just doing this. All it's doing. You don't have to kill it or barely lift it up and then play hard so that you fool your ear into thinking that you did turn higher. Go for it. Remember, I want the motions. I want that motion, and then I want it there. Don't spend quite as much time coming up. Yeah, I want you to get to here. There. Don't forget the other wrist turn. This one. No, you got to give me a nice wrist turn. Don't overdo it either. Don't go too far in the other direction. Not bad. Okay. There you go. Do that with the other hand. Now remember, we worked on the regular wrist turn and that counterbalance that I mentioned. I think we were in the left, right? Now the right. See, there's not a wobble, not a lot of wobble. Now your left is better than your right when it comes to singles.
It's not.
It is right now. The problem child isn't a problem anymore. Yeah, I really want to. I want to see some of this. There you go. Yeah. You know, see now the stick isn't wobbling around as you go through the air. Just a minute ago, I thought that I was seeing.
It was. Yeah, it was.
It's nice and solid because this has to be working so the stick won't. So you won't compensate and do something else weird. You don't have to slam. You have to let the forearm countervail. You just lift it up and let everything come back. Don't slam. Okay, go ahead and make a throw first, though. 2 motions. That and a nice big throw. Woo! Don't be afraid to let that come up. There. Can you put them together like that? So the left is gonna, I'm letting you do a pickup just for simplicity. That's gonna make a throw and a nice big turn. And the right's gonna make a throw and a big turn. Yeah, you got it. Nice big throw and a big turn in both hands. No, first right is gonna be a throw, just like the first left is a throw.
Yeah.
No, first right comes now. There you go. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, 2 rights. Rights in a row.
No.
and then you get another right. Just take your time. No. Just play it once, and then stop. Now the right has to make a turn right now. Go ahead, turn your right again. There, and wait. Do it again. No. Now the right turn. Stop. That's it. That's all it is, over and over. Do it again and stop. There it is. Do it again. Ah, it sounds more solid. Ah, the right has to play.
Yeah.
Okay, put your metronome on at 44. Okay, you know what? I want you to play this to what will be a quarter note. Okay, because it's too fast if we play it to a dotted quarter. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Da, 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 da. Same tempo you were just playing it. Yeah. Nice big throw, and then a nice return with that counterbalance we just worked on. Okay, it already sounds better. You sound more solid. You just do. Okay, so you see what's happening is really, you see, you're really playing 2 notes in each hand, right? And you'll see that instead of 2 notes and 2 notes, so that it looks like doubles, or you're playing doubles. If we were to put the other 2 notes thusly, now suddenly these 2 are so close to each other that you're playing what would be Swiss triplet, right? Or we could space them right in between each other, so it would be more like alternating flams. Okay, so yeah, it's really just doubles. Now with doubles, typically we don't throw for the first note. We could, but so we're just playing these. It's just 2 notes. Then I get a you see I'm getting a big turn. It's just 2 notes.
Actually, just a rebound again.
Now it's doubles. Now it's Swiss triplets. Now it's doubles. Now it's a throw. See? And everything starts to make sense. You know, a double is a double is a double. And how you want to put it together with the other hand, also playing a double, will determine whether you're playing a Swiss triplet or doubles or alternating flams. Okay, so all we're going to do is work on this very slowly. That was good. because not only were you able to put together the physical aspect of playing said stroke, the Swiss triplet, but then I also incorporated a metronome that typically would be as a dotted quarter. But to keep it slow, to keep you at the tempo that your learning tempo de lerno, I had you play the Swiss triplet to a quarter note. So now you had to incorporate that, and you had no problem. Okay, singles are better. You'll notice now that you're also working on your singles when you play the Swiss triplet, because it's got a single in it, at least right now at this tempo. Okay, so everything, ultimately the whole thing, the approach is holistic, and everything will come together, and you won't be searching for just one aspect of how to play. You'll understand the whole thing with an overview. Okay? Yeah, man. I'm going to stop. Welcome back.
So in 2 weeks' time, yeah?